Honestly, the worst design system project is one that starts way too early.
Hey Simon, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm good, thanks. Yeah, so let's dive in. Um, my name is Marcello. This is Simon. We are co-founders of Tennis, a B2B website design and product development agency. The last two episodes we've spent kind of talking about design systems, why brand drift is a huge business risk, not just from a creative perspective, but also from the UX perspective across your digital assets. And why does a design system is really infrastructure that fixes all of that. Um, but here's a question we get all the time. Okay, but are we actually ready for this? If we are, where do we start? So those are the questions that we're going to be tackling today.
Yeah. And like design systems are lauded across our industry. Designers love putting them together, but honestly, the worst design system project is one that starts way too early. So if things aren't mature in the organization or the brand, so it can start too early with the wrong people. It could be scoped too big or too granular. But if you mess that part up, if the timing's off, then it's just going to die somewhere in a folder somewhere in the organization. And today, yeah, we're just going to unpack how to make sure that doesn't happen.
So let's start with the ideal scenario. When you're sitting with a client and trying to figure out if they're actually ready for this, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I think for us, of the many signals, we picked out three for this. So like the first one is if you have more than one team touching the brand or the website, and they're making decisions independently, it's a really solid reason. So, a couple examples: if the marketing pages are getting built by different team members than the designer, then who's governing that? Like, who's defining how that looks, how it ships, how it scales?
This is the most common one we see. It's not that anyone's doing anything wrong. It's just that there's no real system telling them what right looks like.
Yeah, it's like the uninitiated. The designer built a system, the marketing team is using it. So, pretty common one. Signal two, you're about to scale, or there's a rebrand, or you're rebuilding the website. Like that is, that's a good moment to take a step back and think about, well, what do we have now, and what could the future hold if we actually had a proper system and sat down and strategically built out a design system. So that is like a big initial push. That's usually part of the web project costs. But doing it if you're rebuilding something or rebranding, it's a good time to just get it out of the way, set it and forget it rather than retrofitting it down at the end of the day, like later in the process. And then that brings us to signal three. So yeah, if your team's spending more time recreating stuff than creating things, or if there's aesthetic drift in things that should have been templatized that just weren't, that's a good sign. This is really common with designers who are rebuilding the same UI or the same marketing like components, and doing it over and over again without templates and any sort of consistency. And the developers usually bear the brunt of this because they're like, well, why is this button slightly different from the last button we did in the previous months? Right.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's what
And
we mentioned that in episode one, the hidden cost of not having a full fleshed out design system and
yeah,
just
and
eating
that
your
costs.
capacity on redoing stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, like that you say capacity cost versus like financial. I mean, it all tracks back, but awesome. Well, yeah. So like on the flip side of all of this, um, there's the reality of just starting too early. So like you've seen some pretty interesting stuff on your side. What do you got for us today?
Yeah, I mean, I think like there's two main problem areas. So one is you just don't have a stable enough brand yet. There's organizations that are still figuring out who they are, what market they're in, what the product actually does. You can't really build a system if you haven't solidified who you are, or what the brand is. Um, you'll build it. You could potentially build a system around the wrong thing and then have to just tear it down again. So a design system really just codifies decisions. If the decisions aren't made yet, then you're kind of guessing at that stage, and you're systematizing bad decision making. And then the second one is you don't have someone to own it. So I mean, this is common across like everything that gets adopted within organizations. If you don't have someone who's responsible, then it's just not going to go anywhere. So if nobody has accountability for keeping it alive, updated and adopted and maintained, it's going to die pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I feel like that's where a team like ours can come in. Like if you don't have the resourcing necessary to maintain a design system that we ship for you, it's it's a poor investment. Like you should end up with a design system ideally at the end of most work, but it should be maintained along with
Mm,
everything else. Just like your website, if that system drifts at a place, like you're going to be dusting it off 6 months from then, asking like, when did we introduce this third button variant, right? Like,
really. And then the next decision really is build, buy, or borrow. Do we
well,
build
that's a
our
good
own
one.
system? Do we buy a tool or start something that already exists? What's your take on this?
I mean, it's a pretty wild landscape out there. I'd say that the product systems, uh, when it comes to borrow or buy, product systems are pretty dialed in. So you've got Material UI, IBM's Carbon. There's the Ant design system as well, which I think is Alibaba. Could be getting that wrong. Atlassian's got one. By far, our favorite and most flexible, and the one we see most commonly is Shad CN. Um, that one, that one's pretty high up there with Material UI. Yeah, most commonly Shad CN. So those are design systems dedicated for product. You're trying to get like a product off the ground. If you're vibe coding something and you need a design system to tell Lovable or some other uh, agent to use, just choose a design system to basically reference.
Hmm.
It's great stuff in there. But there's a whole other category of design systems, which are more for like the web, the visual design space that we haven't touched on yet. And that's things like sections, components, header types, your classics like image left, content right type components. And there's two really stellar libraries out there. The first is Relume. So give a shout out to them because they're amazing for doing lo-fi all the way up to hi-fi. And then Osmo Supply is incredible for just inspiration around pushing Relume components beyond just like traditional static on-screen stuff. So you've got two systems that you can borrow or buy, a product system like the ones I listed, or a web experience system like Relume or Osmo. So
Well, um, so let's talk about management. Who typically should be involved in management? Obviously, you've got design and engineering. Are there any that are not as obvious?
yeah, I mean the designer role definitely for everything it's becoming today is probably number one. Engineers number two because they have to use it. Um, I would say maybe number three could be like the end user or marketing. End user, if you're actually collecting information on how people are using things, right? Because that could actually inform how the system needs to evolve.
Hmm.
And then I would also say marketing, because if marketing's building pages, you should really be hinging some of the updates to the system on the marketing needs.
Yeah, marketing
So
definitely,
those are the
especially
two.
especially for web.
Yeah, especially for web. Right. All right. So you've got the right people in the room. You've decided to move forward. How do you scope this out? Um, yeah, like tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some like low-hanging fruit. So starting with decisions that are being made over and over and over and over and over. Or what are the five things your team rebuilds from scratch every time they start something new? That's a really That's a really low impact, oh, sorry, high impact, low effort place to start because it's probably already been documented and complained about a lot.
Hmm.
For most companies, that's things like color tokens, type scale, primary button states, form elements, things like that. Set a ceiling on version one. If you can't ship it in a few weeks, the scope is you either haven't scoped it, you think you have, but it's expanding too much. So try to get to that version one within a few weeks. Um, and then focus on adoption. So that version one's job is not to get fully adopted, but it's to be used and tested. And I think one of the big tasks there is just adoption, and getting everyone on board. What's the most common scoping mistake you see?
Yeah, it kind of relates to your point, like trying to do too much all at once, which we've talked about before. I like your point about incremental approaches. Just adoption is core. Like if no one's going to use it, then you're building something that's absolutely useless. No one will care enough about it to be emotionally attached. So it'll just fall out of use and then it'll collect dust and you'll be doing it again another 6 to 12 months later. So yeah, I'd say scope it incrementally, work with fundamentals. The one thing you called out, like color and type, those are the biggest misses that we see. Like John just came across an insane type system like a few weeks ago, um, that we had to basically like nurture back to a better place. Frankly, our
Mm,
own type system, the shoemaker's shoes, our own type system I analyzed on the weekend got some gaps, boy.
yeah.
Um, but like, easily resolvable things, and we're going to implement something that's a little bit more like long term. But that's the reality is you have to recognize these things, change them, implement them, and adopt them.
Yeah. So let's end with something concrete. You've shipped version one. It's been 90 days. How do you know if it's working?
If people are using it, you know, like, is marketing actually shipping pages at speed? And I know that that connects back to whether or not you have the right CMS for the job. The thinking is if you are doing this work, you've already dialed in the technology to do it. So they're either in parallel or they're in sequence. So with a fully resolved design system, I would hope that marketing teams are shipping faster. And I'd hope that your engineering teams are vibe coding pages faster.
Coding. All right. So we've gone through all 3 episodes now. What's the one thing? What's the one thing people should do to take action tomorrow?
An audit. Yeah. Just do an audit. I would do an audit of internal materials, and how that connects back to the brand. An audit of your website. Like, does everything feel like it fits together? Like, if the gut feeling
And is
is
it
no,
maintainable?
yeah, is it maintainable? If it feels like it's off and it's hard to use, like that's enough of an audit. A deeper audit would be actually looking at the website and finding all those variations that are just unaccounted for.
Hmm. Yeah. And then just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to exist in version 1.0 and has to be owned.
Some people have
This
to use
is,
it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
people have to use it. The adoption part is a whole other challenge. This is exactly what we do at Tennis. We help companies figure out where they are, what they need, and how to build the infrastructure that makes everything downstream faster, more consistent, and credible. Yeah, if any of this feels like your company, feel free to reach out and let's have a conversation. Thanks.
So thanks. See ya.
Bye.